In 1984, a living alien costume appeared in The Amazing Spider-Man number 252. Little did readers know this black suit would spawn one of Marvel's most complex and enduring characters. From villain to antihero, from comic panels to blockbuster films, Venom's story is a roller coaster of transformation. Welcome, Hero Junkies. Let's uncover the complete story of Venom. What if I told you that one of Marvel's most iconic characters started as a $220 idea from a fan? Crazy, right? Randy Schueller first came up with the idea for Venom and sold it to Marvel for a small amount of money. Then writers David McKillany and artist Todd McFarlane took this idea and turned it into the character we know today. When the symbiote first attached to Spider-Man, it changed his look and made his powers stronger. But this alien costume had its own will, which caused stress and led to our friendly neighborhood wall crawler turning it down in the end. This rejection made it possible for the symbiote to change into something much worse, which is how Venom was born. Before we move on, please take a second to like and subscribe so we can keep bringing you more content like this. Thank you for your support. Now, back to the video. Eddie Brock was once a promising reporter, but his career was over after he wrongly accused a man of being the notorious serial killer known as the Sin Eater. His reputation was ruined when Spider-Man caught the real bad guy, and he started to hate the web-slinger even more. Brock was the perfect partner for Venom to latch on to, since they were both angry with Spider-Man. They became friends and worked together to get back at Spider-Man, which would shake the Marvel Universe. The news of their bond came out in The Amazing Spider-Man number 300. Brock faced Spider-Man and said, "I am Venom, and I'm going to kill you for ruining my life," as he turned into Venom. Brock's raw anger and the symbiote's abilities made a very dangerous enemy for Spider-Man. Venom had all of Spider-Man's abilities, plus extra strength and endurance. Peter Parker's spider sense couldn't even see Venom. Venom was one of the most dangerous enemies Spider-Man had come across because of this phenomenon. Writer David McKillany said that Venom was driven by both Brock's personal grudge and the symbiote's own need for revenge. Venom was different from other bad guys in Spider-Man's rogues gallery because the host and symbiote had a common goal. The first movie version of Venom made him one of Spider-Man's worst enemies, along with the Green Goblin and Dr. Octopus. But the character was more complicated than just being bad. Eddie Brock's relationship with the symbiote was more than just a temporary one. It was a strange kind of symbiosis that would grow over time. This strange pairing is what makes Venom's duality and moral ambiguity possible. Because Venom wanted revenge, he often did things that made it hard to tell the difference between good and bad. The character became very popular very quickly, which led to a lot of solo comic books and stories about their complicated relationship. The creation of Venom was a big change in how comic books were told. The bad guy wasn't just a dark version of the good guy. He was a real person with his own goals, problems, and room to grow. Because the symbiote influenced Brock and Brock influenced the symbiote, Brock's personality was always changing. He could do terrible things or surprising acts of bravery. Venom would be tested to the very limits of his power to both kill and help. He became more complicated as he became more well-known. It became harder to tell who the good guy and the bad guy were, because the evil guy started to show signs of moral ambiguity. This change didn't happen all at once. It happened slowly over the course of several important comic storylines. One of the most important turning points in Venom's history was the 1993 miniseries Venom: Lethal Protector, where Eddie moves to San Francisco to protect the innocent after making peace with Spider-Man. He faces mercenaries and dangerous new symbiotes created by the Life Foundation. To survive, Venom fights them and uncovers a secret conspiracy in the city. This storyline changed Venom's motivations and introduced the idea of him as an anti-hero instead of a simple bad guy. Eddie Brock as Venom saves a woman from a thief in a scene that stands out. This small action showed a big shift in Venom's personality, showing that he wanted to protect innocent people more than just getting back at Spider-Man. The Lethal Protector story arc changed Venom as a person and made his world bigger. It showed Eddie Brock's complicated relationship with the alien costume and introduced new symbiote characters. This plot set the stage for Venom to go from being Spider-Man's enemy to a character with his own backstory and depth. Then came the 1995 Planet of the Symbiotes. In this comic, Venom teams up with Spider-Man and Scarlet Spider to stop an invasion of alien symbiotes. These symbiotes plan to take over Earth, and Venom must face his own kind in a battle to save humanity from an alien threat. This arc went into great detail about his history and how they came to be. It turned out that Venom was seen as an oddity by people of his own species. Other symbiotes tried to control their host, but Venom wanted to form a real bond with them. This new information gave the character more depth and made him seem like an outsider, not only on Earth, but also amongst his own kind. It was also emphasized in Planet of the Symbiotes how special Venom is. The story showed that Venom's race thought he was crazy for wanting to commit to his host, which is very different from how other symbiotes usually act. This backstory gave a good reason for Venom's actions and goals, which made him a more likable and believable character. 1996's Venom: The Hunger explored the darker sides of Eddie Brock's personality. He struggles with his hunger for human flesh after being separated from Venom. As he battles his cravings, he faces a new enemy, a powerful monster that threatens the city. Eddie must find a way to control his hunger and stop the creature before it destroys everything. It showed how hard it was for him to deal with Venom's violent urges and his own feelings of being alone. This conflict inside Venom gave him more depth and showed that he was not just a monster, but a complicated being trying to figure out who he is and where he fits in the world. Eddie Brock and Venom's relationship changed over the course of these stories, becoming more than just a host-parasite dynamic. Their relationship grew complicated and dependent on each other as they both tried to figure out who they were and what was right and wrong. The friendship and inner conflict that came up a lot in this relationship gave Venom's character arc more emotional depth. The plot of The Bride of Venom was another turning point in Venom's path to becoming an anti-hero. In The Bride of Venom, Venom faces a new challenge when he meets She-Venom, who is actually his former lover Annie Weiing. Bonded with a symbiote, as they battle with a common enemy, Eddie must confront his feelings for Annie and the dangers of their connection while trying to protect her from the dark side of the symbiote. Eddie's ex-wife, Annie Weiing, was a very important part of this change. Her plea for Venom to spare Spider-Man made Eddie rethink his violent path, which was a big change in how he became a person. Venom became more and more like the good guys. In different story arcs, he fought threats to innocent people, and often did so with Spider-Man against their common enemies. These team-ups showed how heroic Venom could be, while still keeping the shady, unpredictable side that made him such an interesting character. But a new threat was coming together while Venom was getting used to being an anti-hero. Because the symbiote can reproduce, it will soon release a force that is so chaotic that it'll make Venom look calm. This biological quirk of the alien costume started a new part of Venom's story and added a family tree that would change the Marvel Universe. Carnage, who first showed up in The Amazing Spider-Man number 361, is Venom's most well-known child. Carnage was created when the Venom symbiote joined with serial killer Cletus Cassidy. He quickly became known as a violent and chaotic force. Carnage liked causing damage for its own sake, while Venom had a complicated set of morals. Seeing how different parent and child were added a new dimension to Venom's personality and made him face the effects of his existence. When Carnage showed up, Venom's story took a big turn. Because of the symbiote, Venom was no longer the most dangerous being in the Marvel Universe. Right now, he was in an awkward position of having to work with Spider-Man, his old enemy, to stop a threat even bigger than himself. Venom's change from the main bad guy to reluctant ally made the line between hero and villain even less clear, solidifying his reputation as a complicated anti-hero. It was just the start, though. As more symbiotes joined together, the family tree kept growing. Each new branch brought its own problems and story ideas. New characters came out, such as Scream, Lasher, Phage, Agony, and Riot. Each was connected to a different host and had its own personality and set of skills. By adding to the symbiote mythos, writers were able to look at identity, control, and what makes good and evil from different points of view. The idea of a symbiote was shown to be flexible when it joined forces with other well-known Marvel characters. From 2005 to 2009, Mark Gargan, who is better known as Scorpion, played the role of Venom. This version of Venom was much scarier and less stable, with the symbiote's personality often taking over Garrigan's. This portrayal was a stark reminder of how dangerous symbiotes truly are and how the host and alien are always fighting for control. One of the most surprising and life-changing hosts was Flash Thompson, who used to be Peter Parker's high school bully and is now a war hero. Thompson used the symbiote's powers for good as Agent Venom. He first worked for the government as an agent and then joined the Guardians of the Galaxy. This version of Venom showed how the symbiote can be used for good when paired with a host with strong morals. With more and more symbiote characters, Marvel has been able to try out a lot of different ways to tell stories. From space adventures to fighting crime on the streets, symbiotes have shown that they are flexible plot devices and can be used in a wide range of genres and settings. This adaptability has kept the idea fresh and interesting for readers for decades after Venom was first published. In addition, Venom's own family tree of symbiotes has given him a lot of problems. Being the ancestor of this lineage, Venom is often held responsible for or involved in the actions of his children. This is where Venom has to face the effects of his own existence and think about his part in making beings that are often worse than himself. The main ideas of these stories are still about autonomy, identity, and how the lines between host and symbiote aren't always clear. Each new bonding has its own unique dynamics that make readers and characters rethink what they think they know about these complicated relationships. Topher Grace played Eddie Brock in Spider-Man 3, which was Venom's first live-action movie appearance. The movie tried to fit Venom's origin story into a story that was already very full, with other bad guys like Sandman and Harry Osborn's New Goblin. Because of this, the introduction was rushed and didn't show how complex Venom's character is. Even though Grace gave a good performance, the short amount of screen time didn't allow for a full exploration of the complicated relationship between Eddie and the symbiote. Even though it got mixed reviews, Venom's first movie appearance set the stage for his future in movies. It showed how the character could look and hinted at the darker, more mature themes that would be explored in later films. In 2018, Venom finally got his chance to shine in a movie by himself. When Tom Hardy took over as Eddie Brock, he gave the character a new level of intensity and humor. This version of Venom was very different from the comic book version he came from. Eddie Brock was shown to be more likable, and the relationship between host and symbiote was given a lot of attention. The 2018 movie Venom reimagined the character as an anti-hero from the start, skipping over the part where he was a bad guy. Because of this choice, the movie was able to explore the moral ambiguity that had become a trademark of Venom's comic book appearances in recent years. Hardy's performance drew attention to Eddie and the symbiote's inner struggle, which was often used for dramatic and comedic effect.
I've never seen anything like this before, but this parasite, whatever this
Parasite!
it's eating you.
The weird relationship between Eddie and Venom got even stranger in the sequel, Venom: Let There Be Carnage, which came out in 2021. Andy Serkis, the director, said that their relationship was in the 7-year itch phase, which ties in with the movie's focus on how their relationship is changing.
You were a loser before I came along. You were nothing. I made you special.
The audiences liked this approach. They liked the character being played in a more fun way. The success of these standalone movies caused a big change in how Venom was portrayed on screen. Venom was no longer just a Spider-Man bad guy. He was now a franchise lead in his own right, able to carry a movie without Spider-Man. A short scene after the credits in Spider-Man: No Way Home 2021 may have been the most interesting turn in Venom's movie career. This cameo gave us a sneak peek at how Venom might fit into the larger Marvel Cinematic Universe. This could lead to some really cool crossovers and storylines in the future. These movie versions of Venom have had a big impact on how people think about the character. Tom Hardy's performance as Venom has become the definitive version of the character for many viewers, introducing the character to people who have never read a comic book. In line with how he changed in the comics, the movies have emphasized Venom's role as an anti-hero and his ability to both hurt and protect. Venom's change from a bad guy to an anti-hero has been a wild ride, but the most interesting part may still be to come. The symbiote's short meeting with Tom Holland's Spider-Man in the multiverse sets the stage for worlds to crash into each other. Could Venom be the link between the different Marvel worlds, both on and off the page? Venom 3: The Last Dance, which is set to come out on October 25th, 2024, looks like it will shake up the symbiote's world once more. As the last leg in the Venom trilogy, this will be very hard for Eddie and Venom in ways we haven't seen before. But what does The Last Dance really mean? Is this really the end of Venom's movie journey, or is this just the start of a new one? In the comics, Venom's changes keep coming as a surprise. Null, the god of symbiotes, has been introduced in recent stories. He adds to our knowledge of symbiotes and makes us question everything we thought we knew about Venom's identity. This space-based addition to Venom's story makes it more interesting for future stories, both in comics and maybe even on the big screen. Donny Cates' work on Venom has been especially important in bringing the character back to life. Cates has added new characters and plot points while also going into more detail about Eddie Brock's complicated relationship with the symbiote. His work has not only made Venom's world bigger, but it has also explored identity, morality, and what it means to be a hero in ways that are still relevant to today's readers. The King in Black storyline in the most recent Venom comics made Venom one of the strongest characters in the Marvel Universe. The epic battle with Null changed Venom's story and gave him new ways to grow as a person. This change in the balance of power could have interesting effects on future adaptations, possibly making Venom's role bigger in bigger Marvel stories. As Venom's story goes on, more and more people are wondering how the character might fit in better with the rest of the Marvel Universe. The events of Spider-Man No Way Home have made it possible for stories from different universes to interact with each other. Could Venom, played by Tom Hardy, fight or work with other Marvel heroes in a video game? Venom's development in comics is a good example of a larger trend in storytelling. Audiences are more interested in characters who are complicated and have unclear morals. In line with this trend, the most recent Venom movies have focused on the funny and action-packed parts of Venom's personality while hinting at deeper themes. People who read or watch the show are deeply moved by how the character struggles with identity, morality, and the battle between good and evil. What started out as a replacement costume for Spider-Man turned into one of the Marvel web-slinger's worst nightmares, wrote comics writer Mike Conroy. As stories become more popular, characters who aren't clear-cut good or bad are becoming more popular as well. Venom's development is a good example of this. His lasting appeal comes from his ability to change and adapt. This makes him a symbol of how complicated identity is and how we all struggle with the battle between light and dark inside of us. For more videos covering the full timelines of characters like Venom, make sure you click on this video to explore the complete story of the Joker.